Hello, KMA Land. I'm Bob Peterson, Industrial Technology Instructor at Red Oak High School, here with another look at the Red Oak Industrial Technology Program. This month, we're going to look at the Material Processing Technology course, which, along with our manufacturing courses, which primarily deal with a metal-based curriculum, the material processing class tries to look at a few other types of materials, primarily wood, but we also have been able to add some things to that as well, specifically a plastics curriculum, which was made possible as part of the Lakin Award that I received in 2017. As part of that award, the high school of the teacher is awarded $2,500, and the high school chose to allow the industrial technology program to use that money. So with that, we were able to purchase some plastics curriculum materials. So our first interview is going to be with Daniel Points. He's going to tell us a little bit about some plastic molding that he has done. So Daniel, what are we looking at here? What kinds of things have you been making with the setup that you have here?
So right now, the only thing I've made is a door stop. I've made it 3 times because you gotta test, and then.
So you did a couple test runs on it, and what did you think about how they turned out with each one?
The first one, it was decent, but couldn't really hold a heavy door. So we went ahead and made it a second one, which was softer than before. But third one, it was really hard, so it could hold a door.
Okay, so you changed some of the characteristics of the plastic by putting in a couple different types of plastics and things. Is that what you did?
Yes. The first one, we mixed half and half of the 2 plastics. And the second one, we put too much 65 plastic in it, so it was softer still. But the third one, it was just straight 90 plastic, which made it really hard.
Good. So you're able to do a little troubleshooting, just kind of went along with it. So this is their first test run with it, so we're trying to get a lot of the bugs and things worked out. So basically, what did you start with? What kind of material did you start with here?
Started with the number 65 and number 90.
Okay. So that's a liquid plastic resin that they have right there. Okay. And then what did you have to do with it then?
We put it in the mold, which has been preheated for 20 minutes, and then we take it out and pour the plastic in and let it sit there for several minutes. And then after, we pour it back in, so that's left is the stuff inside the mold, which we put into the oven for 20 to 25 minutes.
Okay, so it's a heat-cured plastic then. So the heat is what causes it to harden. And so you use the little toaster oven to generate the heat for the mold and then to process it out. Are there any other potential molds besides the doorstop that you might be able to work with?
Yes, we have the funnel right here. And we have the coin purse, which you would have to hang in the toaster oven.
So those are what we would call a dip mold then, instead of pouring it into the mold and stuff. So good. So would you say this is a really fast, speedy process, or does it keep you busy all the time, or do you have a little wait time in there?
It keeps me busy when I'm working on it, but there's in between times where I have time to do something else.
Okay. So you have to let it sit in the oven and stuff like that for a while. Okay, great. Thank you very much, Daniel. So we're going to transition over to Noah and Jake next for what they've been working on. Okay, we're here with Jake Echternaw and Noah Westerlund, and they have been working on some stuff with expandable beads, and they're going to explain a little bit about the process that they've been going through. Tell us what you've got here, some of the things you have laid out on the table, and the steps you kind of went through in order to get that to turn out. So, Noah, you want to start off?
Yes, this first process takes, we use these polystyrene beads. They're just little tiny beads. And we pour about half of one of these plastic cups into one of our molds. And here our mold was a skull. And we did a couple of test runs with it. So our first one here, you can see it didn't fill out all the features of the mold as well. And then so this one we used a little bit more beads, and it still, I mean, it was a lot better, but it still didn't fill out all the features of the face. And then this one we used even more, and you can even tell by feeling it that this one's a lot more dense, and it filled out all the features in the face. The process we go to make one of these molds is we take the mold and we first spray it with this mold release, so that way the plastic doesn't get stuck inside the mold. Then we take the mold and we fill it up with our beads here. This comes apart in two halves. Fill it up with the beads and take the bolts, lock the two halves together. And then in the meantime, while we're doing that, we'll have this pot here filled up with enough water to submerge the mold in on a hot plate starting to boil water. And once the water starts boiling and we have everything ready, then we will drop the mold into the pot, and you let the mold sit in the pot for about 20 minutes, I think we did on this one, and it turned out pretty well. And once the 20 minutes is up, we go ahead and pull the mold out, let it cool, and go ahead and pull it apart, and this is our finished product. So it turned out pretty well for us today.
Very good. That gives you a real good rundown of that. So we start off with these little tiny beads, Jake, and how do they go from being little tiny beads in there to something that's several times its original size? What causes them to make that transformation?
Well, there's a little plastic capsule on the edge of here, and so when it gets wet and hot enough, it'll expand. And so there's different temperatures, and since boiling will be one constant temperature, it can't overheat. Like in one of our injection molds, it'll melt all the way down to a liquid form. And so since this can't get all the way to that melting form, it'll expand just enough to get to the mold and keep its shape.
Awesome. Cool. Is there a use for styrofoam out there in industry? Do you guys ever run into places where you need that?
Yeah, I run into it all the time. Styrofoam's used in packages. They use it to package things to protect it while it's being sent through the mail. There's probably a lot of parts that you don't even think about being styrofoam that are probably actually have styrofoam or are styrofoam in them. So, yeah, we run into it a lot in the world, I think.
Certainly about anything that's packaged anymore has some kind of styrofoam with it. So awesome. So that's a little look at the expandable beads. We're now going to go over and take a look at the injection molding process that they have been working with as well. We're looking at the injection molding process, and Jake is actually going to kind of take us through some of the steps that they have to go through in order to create an injection part.
Well, we have this injection molder, and it's got a few different parts on it. There's the dial here to regulate the temperature. And then on the front, there's the thermometer to tell us what temperature we're currently running. So we will plug it in around 420 degrees, let it heat up about 10-15 minutes, and we'll take one of these molds here. See, we've got golf tees, we've got screwdrivers, and then we'll let these heat up. Set them under here, under our injection molder. We will take we have a funnel type thing to pour the polystyrene beads into here, and then we'll close this just so they don't overflow. Let that heat up and completely melt. Since it is a hotter temperature, it'll come into a liquid. So once that's hot enough to sit, we've kind of experimented between about 8 and 15 to 20 minutes on how long it should sit inside of here and let it melt. So then once that, we've got this secured under here with these two nuts up top, and we've got our clamp. We'll secure it in there, and then once we think it's ready to pour, we'll just close that all the way. It'll inject the liquid into here, and we'll let that sit about 5 minutes. See, and then this one we've done earlier today, and this is a screwdriver mold, and we'll let it sit and it'll solidify, and so then we will have a screwdriver, or golf tees in this case.
Very good. Excellent. So especially like with the screwdriver, there's an additional part, an insert then that would go into the mold ahead of time, and then that plastic could form around it then. So. Okay, Noah, did you guys have good luck with this from the start, or did you have to do a little troubleshooting on it, or how did things go?
To start out with, we had quite a bit of trouble getting it to actually mold, and the directions weren't real clear on it, so it was kind of a trial and error process. We started out, they gave us a rough temperature of what it should be, and then from there it was just, heating it up, trying it. If it didn't work, changing something, and we had problems with the plastic when we were done after it hardened, being too brittle and breaking. We had problems with it not wanting to inject in the mold because it got hard before it actually fully went into the mold. There's been a series of problems, and we've just sort of changed something every time we've done a trial, and trying to foolproof the process.
Great. So probably a lot of the same types of problems that you could run into in industry where they have to do a lot of troubleshooting and things like that as well. So great. Well, thank you, gentlemen, very much. So this is Bob Peterson for the Red Oak Industrial Technology Program. Thanks again for coming and visiting with us. If you have any questions or comments or anything, I can be reached here at the school, 712-623-6610, or you can get onto the school's website and you can email me from there as well. So thanks again, and we'll see you next time.